Sophie's hands froze on the mop handle when she heard Dr. Harrison's voice behind her. "Did you honestly think you could just waltz into the VIP wing?" Her heart hammered against her ribs as she turned to face the cluster of nurses and doctors blocking the hallway. Their designer scrubs and pristine white coats seemed to glow under the fluorescent lights, a stark contrast to her worn grey uniform with the faded hospital logo. "I was just cleaning like I was told to," she started, but Nurse Patricia cut her off with a cruel laugh. "Cleaning? This floor is for actual medical professionals, not—" Patricia's eyes raked over Sophie with undisguised contempt. "People like you." The words hit like a slap. Sophie felt the familiar burn of humiliation creep up her neck, but she held her head high. She'd worked 3 jobs to keep her daughter Maya fed and safe. She wouldn't let these people break her. Not today, not ever. Then she heard it. The elevator chimed. Footsteps, multiple, measured, military precise, echoed down the corridor. The mocking laughter died instantly. Dr. Harrison's face went white as paper. Every person in that hallway turned toward the sound, and Sophie watched as fear replaced their arrogance in seconds. The VIP wing fell completely, utterly silent. If you want to discover how this story began and what happened after this moment, subscribe to the channel and leave a comment telling us where you're watching from. Every view helps bring more stories like this one. This is Sophie's story, and it's about to change everything she thought she knew about power, protection, and the dangerous man who would turn her world upside down. 3 hours earlier, Sophie had stood at the staff entrance of Manhattan Presbyterian Hospital, staring at her reflection in the glass doors. At 28, she looked tired. Dark circles under her brown eyes, hair pulled back in a tight bun, the same grey cleaning uniform she'd worn for 4 years. Her daughter's medicine didn't pay for itself, and neither did the cramped studio apartment in the Bronx where they lived. "Sophie, you're late!" Marcus, the head of janitorial services, barked as she clocked in. "VIP wing needs deep cleaning. Senator's wife is being discharged, and we have a new admission coming in this afternoon." She nodded, grabbed her cleaning cart, and headed for the elevators. The VIP wing was her least favorite assignment. The doctors and nurses there treated cleaning staff like they were invisible, or worse, like they were beneath notice. But the pay was slightly better, and Maya needed new shoes for school. The 8th floor gleamed with marble floors and artwork that probably cost more than Sophie made in a year. She started in the private rooms, methodically cleaning each surface, changing linens, emptying trash. Hours passed in the rhythm of work she knew by heart. She was finishing the last room when she heard voices in the hallway, loud, excited, nervous. "Did you see the security detail downstairs?" one nurse whispered. "I heard it's someone important, like really important," another responded. Sophie paid them no attention. Important people came through this hospital all the time. It had nothing to do with her. She was wheeling her cart toward the service elevator when Dr. Harrison stepped in front of her, his expression twisted with irritation. "What are you doing up here?" "Cleaning the VIP room, sir, like I was assigned." "Well, you're done now. We need this floor cleared for our new patient." He looked at her like she was dirt on his expensive shoes. Sophie kept her voice level. "I still have the nurses' station and the waiting area. Did I stutter?" He raised his voice, and suddenly 3 more doctors and 4 nurses materialized, forming a wall between Sophie and the elevator. "This floor is for medical professionals, not cleaning staff." Nurse Patricia, who'd worked at the hospital for 2 years and had never once acknowledged Sophie's existence, stepped forward with a smirk. "Honestly, do you even understand what happens on this floor? This isn't some public clinic where anyone can just wander around." Sophie's jaw tightened. "I've been cleaning this floor for 4 years. I have clearance." "Clearance?" Dr. Harrison laughed, a cold, mocking sound. "You push a mop. Don't get confused about your place here." The other staff members snickered. Sophie felt heat rising to her face, not from shame, but from rage she couldn't express. Not if she wanted to keep her job. Not if she wanted to keep feeding Maya. "I'll finish quickly and be out of your way," she said quietly, trying to move past them. Patricia blocked her path. "Maybe you don't get it. Let me use smaller words. This floor is not for you." She punctuated each word with a step closer, forcing Sophie backward. Sophie's hands gripped the mop handle so hard her knuckles went white. She'd dealt with racism and classism her entire life, but it never stopped hurting. It never stopped being humiliating. She opened her mouth to respond when the elevator chimed. The sound cut through the tension like a knife. Every head turned toward the elevator bank. Sophie watched, confused, as the color drained from Dr. Harrison's face. Patricia's smug expression melted into something that looked like fear. The elevator doors opened. 6 men in black suits stepped out first, their movements synchronized, professional. They weren't hospital security. They were something else entirely, something that made the doctors and nurses instinctively step back. The men positioned themselves along the hallway, hands clasped in front of them, earpieces visible, eyes scanning constantly. Then he walked out. Sophie's breath caught in her throat. The man was over 6 feet of pure presence. He wore a charcoal grey suit that probably cost more than her yearly salary, tailored perfectly to his broad shoulders and athletic build. Dark hair styled back but slightly disheveled, like he'd run his hands through it recently. A perfectly groomed beard framed a jaw that could cut glass, but it was his eyes that held her, dark, intense, dangerous, eyes that had seen things, done things, commanded things. He walked down the hallway like he owned it, like he owned the entire building, maybe the entire city. One of the security team leaned in and whispered something to him. Those dark eyes shifted, scanning the cluster of medical staff who suddenly looked like children caught misbehaving. Then his gaze landed on Sophie. The world seemed to stop. He looked at her for 3 seconds, maybe 5. And in that moment, Sophie felt seen in a way she hadn't in years. Not invisible, not beneath notice. Seen. His expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Recognition? Curiosity? She couldn't name it. Mr. Castellano. Dr. Harrison's voice was obsequious, completely different from moments before. He practically bowed. Welcome to Manhattan Presbyterian. We've prepared the executive suite for you. Everything is ready. Who was talking to her? The man's voice was deep, measured, laced with an accent Sophie couldn't quite place. Italian, maybe. His eyes never left Sophie's face. The hallway went silent. I'm sorry, Dr. Harrison stammered. I heard voices, raised voices. Who was talking to her? Each word was precise, controlled, but underneath was something that made grown men nervous. Patricia tried to laugh it off. Oh, it was nothing, Mr. Castellano, just some confusion about floor access. I wasn't asking you. He finally turned those dark eyes to the nurse, and Patricia's words died in her throat. I was asking him. He nodded toward Dr. Harrison. The doctor's face had gone from white to red to white again. There was a small misunderstanding about cleaning schedules. Misunderstanding. The man, Mr. Castellano, said the word like he was tasting it, finding it distasteful. He looked back at Sophie. Is that what happened? A misunderstanding? Sophie's mind raced. Every instinct told her to stay quiet, to not make waves, to keep her job. But something in his eyes, something that didn't match the danger everyone else seemed to feel, made her speak. They told me to leave, said this floor wasn't for people like me. The temperature in the hallway seemed to drop 10 degrees. Mr. Castellano turned to Dr. Harrison with an expression that made the doctor physically step backward. People like her. Mr. Castellano, I assure you, we have the utmost respect for all our staff. You have the next 10 seconds to apologize to her, sincerely. His voice was quiet now, which somehow made it more terrifying. Dr. Harrison's eyes went wide. It was just 8 seconds. The doctor looked at Sophie, his face a mask of barely controlled panic. I apologize. I was out of line. Not to me, Mr. Castellano said. To her. Dr. Harrison turned to Sophie, and she saw something she'd never seen before in his eyes. Genuine fear. Miss, sir, I apologize for my words and behavior. It was completely inappropriate and disrespectful. Sophie stood frozen, her mop still in hand, unable to process what was happening. Mr. Castellano looked at Patricia and the other nurses. Anyone else have something to say? They all shook their heads mutely. Good. He gestured to one of his security team. Dante, make sure Miss... He looked at Sophie's name tag. Miss Thompson is never disrespected in this hospital again. I want a full report on my desk about how staff are treated here. Yes, sir. The man called Dante responded immediately. Mr. Castellano walked past the stunned medical staff, past Sophie, and continued down the hallway. At the door to the executive suite, he paused and looked back at her one more time. Their eyes met again, and Sophie felt that strange electric connection that made no sense. Then he was gone, disappearing into the suite with half his security detail. The other half remained in the hallway, including Dante, who positioned himself near Sophie with his arms crossed. The doctors and nurses scattered like leaves in a storm, suddenly very busy elsewhere. Sophie stood alone with her cleaning cart, her heart still racing, her mind spinning with one question. Who was Jack Castellano, and why had he just defended a woman he'd never met? Sophie barely slept that night. She lay in her small bed in the studio apartment, listening to Maya's soft breathing from the twin bed 6 feet away, replaying the scene in the hospital hallway over and over. The next morning she almost called in sick. Almost. But sick days meant no pay, and Maya needed her ADHD medication refilled next week. So Sophie put on her grey uniform, kissed her sleeping daughter goodbye, left her with Mrs. Chen next door, and took the subway to Manhattan Presbyterian. Marcus stopped her the moment she clocked in. Sophie, my office now. Her stomach dropped. She was getting fired, of course. Standing up to Dr. Harrison, even indirectly, meant consequences. She followed Marcus into his cramped office, preparing herself for the inevitable. Sit down, Marcus said, his expression unreadable. Sophie sat, hands folded in her lap, spine straight. Marcus pulled out a folder. I got a call this morning from hospital administration. Apparently you made quite an impression on our new VIP patient yesterday. I didn't do anything wrong, Sophie said quickly. I was just doing my job. You're not in trouble. Marcus's expression softened into something like awe. The opposite, actually. Mr. Castellano requested you personally. He wants you assigned to the VIP wing for the duration of his stay, full-time, with a significant pay increase. Sophie's mouth fell open. What? $25 an hour instead of $15. Overtime approved. You'll be responsible for maintaining his suite and the surrounding area. Marcus leaned forward. Sophie, I don't know what you did, but whatever it was, don't mess this up. This is the kind of opportunity that doesn't come twice. Her mind reeled. $25 an hour, that was. That would change everything. Maya's medication, better food, maybe even a bigger apartment eventually. When do I start? She heard herself ask. Today, he's expecting you at 9. At exactly 9 a.m., Sophie stood outside the executive suite, her cleaning cart restocked, her heart hammering. The security guard at the door, not Dante, a different one, spoke into his earpiece, then nodded. Go ahead. The suite was more like a luxury apartment than a hospital room. Hardwood floors, a king-size hospital bed that looked more like a hotel bed, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park, a full living area with leather furniture, and a private kitchen. It was bigger than her entire apartment. Jack Castellano sat in an armchair by the window, wearing black pajama pants and a white t-shirt that showed the defined muscles of his arms and chest. An IV line ran to his hand. He was on a phone call speaking rapid Italian, his voice low and commanding. Sophie hesitated in the doorway. He saw her, held up one finger. Wait 1 minute, and continued his call. Sophie stayed frozen, unsure if she should start cleaning or wait. He finished the call and stood up, and even in casual clothes, even with an IV attached, he radiated that same dangerous presence from yesterday. Miss Thompson. His voice was different today, softer, but still with that underlying steel. Mr. Castellano. She gripped her cart handle. I'm here to clean your suite. I know. He walked toward her slowly, carefully, and she noticed he winced slightly with each step. I requested you specifically. Why? The question slipped out before she could stop it. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. Because yesterday, I watched a woman stand her ground when she had every reason to back down. That takes courage, and I respect courage. Sophie didn't know what to say to that. What were you doing in the VIP wing yesterday? Before the incident?" he asked, lowering himself back into the chair with visible effort. "My job. I was assigned to deep clean the floor." "How long have you worked here?" 4 years. "And they treat you like that regularly?" Sophie's jaw tightened. "It doesn't matter. It matters to me." His dark eyes held hers. "I'm going to be here for at least 2 weeks. During that time, this suite is your responsibility. You come in when you need to, you leave when you're finished. No one bothers you. No one disrespects you. Understood?" She nodded slowly. "Why are you here, if you don't mind me asking?" His hand moved unconsciously to his left side, where Sophie noticed a bandage under his shirt. "I had a disagreement with some people. They made their point with a knife. Punctured lung, internal bleeding. Nothing fatal, but my doctor insisted I stay somewhere monitored for recovery." "Why not a private facility?" "Because Manhattan Presbyterian has the best trauma surgeon on the East Coast. And when you do what I do, you don't take chances with your health." Sophie knew she shouldn't ask, knew it was none of her business. But the words came anyway. "What do you do?" Jack's smile was dangerous and beautiful at the same time. "I solve problems for people, permanent solutions to difficult situations." That was all the answer she needed. She'd lived in New York long enough to recognize what he was, even if he never said it outright. Mafia. Probably very high up. Possibly the top. "I should start cleaning," she said quietly. "Sophie." The way he said her name made her stop. "You don't have to be afraid of me." "I'm not afraid." Surprisingly, it was true. She should be terrified. But standing there, looking at this dangerous man who'd defended her against people who'd made her feel small for years, she felt something else entirely, something she couldn't name. "Good," he said. "Because I'm going to be honest with you. I like you. I don't like many people, and I'd like to get to know you better while I'm trapped in this hospital." "Mr. Castellano?" "Jack. Call me Jack." "Jack," she corrected, her heart racing. "I'm just the cleaning staff. I don't belong in your world. My world is full of liars, thieves, and people who'd sell out their own mothers for a percentage. You're honest, you're hardworking, you have dignity." He paused. "That's rarer than you think." Sophie felt tears prick her eyes and blinked them back furiously. She couldn't remember the last time someone had seen her as more than just the person who cleaned their floors. "Tell me about yourself," Jack said, settling back in his chair like he had all the time in the world. Not the employee version, the real version. And against every bit of common sense she possessed, Sophie found herself talking. She told him about Maya, her 7-year-old daughter who loved drawing and wanted to be an artist, about working 3 jobs before getting full-time at the hospital, about her mother who'd passed away 2 years ago from cancer, leaving Sophie alone to raise Maya. She didn't tell him about Maya's father, the man who'd left the moment he found out Sophie was pregnant. Some wounds were still too fresh. Jack listened to everything with complete attention, asking questions, remembering details. When she mentioned Maya's ADHD medication costs, his jaw tightened. "The healthcare system in this country is criminal," he said. "A child shouldn't have to go without medicine because her mother can't afford it." "I make it work," Sophie said defensively. "I know you do. That's not the point." He stood up again, walked to the window, his back to her. "Sophie, I'm going to be here for 2 weeks minimum. During that time, I'd like to pay you to do something beyond cleaning." Her body went rigid. "I'm not—" He turned, holding up a hand. "Let me finish. I'd like to pay you to keep me company. Talk to me. Tell me about your day, your life, your daughter. I spend most of my time surrounded by people who want something from me or who are afraid of me. You're neither. That's worth more than you know." Sophie stared at him. "You want to pay me to talk to you? $1,500 in addition to your cleaning salary. That's $100 per day for the next 15 days. No strings attached. You talk to me for an hour each day and you get paid." Her mind stuttered. $1,500. That was Maya's medication for 3 months. New clothes, better food, maybe even a savings account. "Why?" she whispered. Jack's expression softened. "Because I'm alone in this hospital room, and I'd rather spend my recovery talking to someone genuine than staring at these walls. Because you need the money, and I have more than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. Because yesterday you looked those doctors in the eye and didn't flinch, and that impressed me." Sophie's hands trembled. Every instinct screamed that this was too good to be true. Men like him didn't just give away money. There had to be a catch. But when she looked in his eyes, she didn't see deception. She saw loneliness, the kind she recognized because she felt it every day. "Just talking, Kihul," she confirmed. "Just talking." "And you won't expect anything else." Understanding crossed his face. "Sophie, I swear on my mother's grave, nothing you don't want to give, ever." She took a deep breath, made a decision that would change her life in ways she couldn't imagine. "Okay, 1 hour a day. Just talking." Jack's smile transformed his face from dangerous to devastating. "Then pull up a chair, Sophie Thompson. Tell me what your daughter likes to draw." As Sophie settled into the chair across from him, sunlight streaming through the windows, she didn't notice the man named Dante taking notes outside the door. Didn't know that Jack had already instructed his people to find out everything about Dr. Harrison and Nurse Patricia. Didn't know that the Mafia boss, staring at her like she was the most interesting person in the world, had decided she was under his protection now, whether she wanted it or not. 1 week passed like a dream Sophie was afraid to wake from. Every morning, she cleaned Jack's suite with meticulous care. Every afternoon, she sat in the chair across from him and talked. They discussed everything: Maya's latest drawings that Sophie showed him on her phone, books they'd both read, Jack's childhood in Sicily before his family moved to New York, Sophie's dreams of going back to college someday. Jack never talked about his business, never mentioned what had landed him in the hospital with a knife wound, but he listened to Sophie like her words were scripture, asked questions about Maya's school, remembered every detail she shared. On day 5, he asked why she'd become a cleaning woman. "It's honest work," she said simply. "My mother was a nurse. She wanted me to follow in her footsteps, but I got pregnant at 19. College had to wait. Bills couldn't. Do you regret Maya? Never." The word was fierce. "She's the best thing that ever happened to me." "What about her father?" Sophie's face hardened. "He's not in the picture. Hasn't been since I was 3 months pregnant." Jack's expression went cold, the dangerous look she recognized from that first day. "His loss is incalculable." The words made her heart skip a beat. On day 8, Maya got sick, a bad cold that needed doctor's attention. Sophie came to work visibly stressed, checking her phone constantly. "What's wrong?" Jack asked immediately. She tried to wave it off. "Nothing. Maya has a cold. I'm waiting for the clinic to call me back." "What clinic?" "The free clinic in the Bronx. They're usually busy." Jack picked up his phone, dialed a number. "Dante, I need Dr. Sarah Martinez here in 30 minutes. My guest has a daughter who needs medical attention." He paused. "I don't care what she's doing. 30 minutes. Jack, you can't." "I can. I did. Dr. Martinez is the best pediatrician in New York. She'll see Maya at your apartment in an hour. All costs covered." Sophie's eyes filled with tears. "I can't accept." "Yes, you can." His voice was gentle but firm. "Let me do this, Sophie. Please." Dr. Martinez arrived at Sophie's apartment exactly 1 hour later with a full medical kit. She examined Maya thoroughly, prescribed antibiotics, and refused payment. "Mr. Castellano has an account with me," she explained with a kind smile. That night, Sophie returned to the hospital after her shift technically ended. She found Jack reading in his chair, looking tired but alert. "Thank you," she said from the doorway. He looked up, his face softening. "How is she?" "Better. The doctor said she'll be fine in a few days." "Good." He set his book down. "Sophie, come here." She walked closer, her heart pounding. Jack stood up. He was moving better now, healing, and looked down at her. They were close enough that she could see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes. "I need to tell you something," he said quietly, "and I need you to hear me completely before you respond." Sophie nodded, unable to speak. "I've spent my entire adult life in a world where loyalty is bought, trust is a weakness, and love is a fantasy. I built an empire on fear and respect. I've done things that would horrify you. I'm not a good man, Sophie." "Jack, let me finish." His hand lifted, almost touching her face, then dropped. But then I met you. A woman who works 3 jobs to feed her daughter, who stands up to people who try to make her feel small, who talks to me like I'm just a man, not a monster. Sophie's breath caught. In 1 week, you've made me feel something I haven't felt in 20 years. Something I thought I'd buried with my mother. His voice dropped to a whisper. You've made me feel human. What are you saying? Sophie breathed. I'm saying that when I leave this hospital, I don't want to leave you behind. I'm saying I want to know you, Sophie. Really know you. I want to know Maya. I want to be part of your life if you'll let me. You don't even know me, not really. I know enough. I know you're brave, honest, beautiful inside and out. I know your laugh sounds like music. I know you love your daughter more than life itself. I know... He paused, his jaw working. I know I haven't been able to stop thinking about you for 8 days straight. Sophie's hands were shaking. I'm a single mother with a 7-year-old. I live in a studio apartment. I clean floors for a living. What I am doesn't matter. What matters is what I want. And I want you. Jack, people like you don't end up with people like me. That's not how the world works. His hand finally made contact, cupping her face with surprising gentleness. Then we'll remake the world. Sophie looked up at him, this dangerous, powerful man who'd shown her more respect in 8 days than most people had shown her in years. She should say no, should run, should protect herself and Maya from a world of violence and danger. But when Jack lowered his head slowly, giving her every chance to pull away, Sophie did the opposite. She rose on her tiptoes and met him halfway. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, questioning. Then Jack's other hand came to her waist, pulling her closer, and Sophie's hands found his shoulders, and the kiss deepened into something that made the world spin. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Jack rested his forehead against hers. Sophie, he whispered, I'm going to protect you and Maya with everything I have. I'm going to make sure no one ever disrespects you again. I'm going to... The door burst open. Dante stood there, gun drawn, his face grim. Boss, we have a problem. Marco's dead. Rossetti family made their move. They know you're here. Jack's entire demeanor changed in an instant. The tender man who'd just kissed Sophie vanished, replaced by the cold, calculating leader. Lockdown now, how many? 6 men. They're in the building, coming for this floor. Sophie's blood ran cold. Jack! He turned to her, his expression fierce. Dante, take her. Service elevator. Get her out of this building and to a safe house. Now. I'm not leaving you, Sophie said, but Jack was already pushing her toward Dante. You are. Because if they get to you, they get to me. Go. Please. Dante's hand closed around Sophie's arm, gentle but unyielding. Ma'am, we need to move. Sophie looked back at Jack as Dante pulled her toward the door. Their eyes met one last time, and she saw something in his gaze that made her heart break and soar at the same time. Fear. Not for himself. For her. Then she was in the hallway, Dante moving her quickly toward the service elevator, and behind them she heard the first gunshot. The safe house was a penthouse apartment in Tribeca. Dante had driven Sophie there in a black SUV, 3 other security personnel following in a second vehicle. He'd checked every room, posted guards outside, and told Sophie she wasn't to leave for any reason. That was 12 hours ago. Now Sophie sat on a leather couch worth more than her yearly salary, her phone clutched in her hand watching the news. Manhattan Presbyterian Hospital was on lockdown. 6 men in custody, no civilian casualties. The VIP wing had been secured. No word about Jack. She'd called the hospital 17 times, they wouldn't tell her anything. Maya was safe with Mrs. Chen. Sophie had called and made up a story about a work emergency, but Sophie herself was trapped in a gilded cage, losing her mind. At 6 a.m. the door opened. Jack walked in. Sophie was on her feet instantly, her eyes scanning him for injuries. He had a fresh bandage on his shoulder, moved a bit stiffly, but he was alive, whole. You're okay, she breathed. I'm fine. Jack crossed the room in 4 strides and pulled her into his arms. Are you okay? Did anyone hurt you, touch you? I'm fine. No one hurt me. Jack, what happened? He pulled back, his hands framing her face, his thumbs stroking her cheeks. The Rossetti family thought I was vulnerable, thought they could take me out while I was in the hospital. They were wrong. Are they? In federal custody. They won't be a problem anymore. His jaw was tight. But Sophie, I need you to understand something. This is my life. People will always come for me, always try to hurt me. And now, his voice cracked slightly. Now you're connected to me, which means you're a target. Sophie's stomach dropped. Maya is safe. I already have a team watching her and Mrs. Chen. No one will touch your daughter. I swear it. His eyes were fierce. But I need to know if you can handle this, if you want this, because once you're in my world, Sophie, it's not easy to get out. She should say no, should take Maya and disappear, should protect her daughter from this dangerous life. But she looked at Jack, really looked at him, saw the fear in his eyes, the vulnerability he was showing her, trusting her with. I'm already in, she whispered. The moment you walked into that hospital and defended me, I was in. I just didn't know it yet. Jack's kiss was fierce this time, claiming, possessive. When he pulled back, his eyes were dark with emotion. There's something you need to know, he said. Something I should have told you before. Sophie's heart stuttered. What? The hospital. I wasn't there by accident. I chose Manhattan Presbyterian specifically. I don't understand. Jack took a deep breath. 3 weeks ago, I was at a charity gala. Boring event. Lots of wealthy people pretending to care about causes. I stepped outside for air and I saw a woman sitting on the steps. She was in a cleaning uniform, eating a sandwich, looking exhausted but beautiful. So beautiful it stopped me in my tracks. Sophie's eyes widened. That was you? You didn't see me, but I saw you. I asked my assistant to find out who you were, where you worked. He looked almost embarrassed. When I got stabbed, I could have gone to any private facility, but I chose Manhattan Presbyterian because I knew you worked there. You came to the hospital because of me. I came to the hospital because I needed medical care, but I chose that specific hospital because I wanted to see you again, to talk to you, to see if the woman I couldn't stop thinking about for 3 weeks was as special as I remembered. His hands tightened on her waist. And Sophie, you're more special than I ever imagined. Sophie's mind reeled. You planned this whole thing? Not the knife wound, not the Rossettis, but seeing you again? Yes, I'm not a man who believes in fate, but the moment I saw you, something changed. Jack, I know it sounds insane. I know you have every right to be angry. But I need you to know that everything I feel for you is real. The connection, the attraction, he paused. The love, it's all real. Sophie froze. Love. Jack's expression was raw, open, vulnerable in a way she'd never seen. I'm in love with you, Sophie Thompson. I've been in love with you since I saw you sitting on those hospital steps, since you stood up to Dr. Harrison, since you told me about Maya's drawings, since you kissed me and made me feel like maybe I could be more than what I've become. Tears streamed down Sophie's face. I don't know what to say. Say you'll give me a chance. Say you'll let me prove that I can be good for you and Maya, that I can protect you, provide for you, love you the way you deserve. His voice was rough with emotion. Say you'll trust me with your heart. Sophie looked at this powerful, dangerous man who was offering her everything. A man who'd defended her, protected her, seen her when everyone else looked through her. A man who loved her. I love you too, she whispered. God help me, I love you too. Jack's kiss was tender this time, full of promise and hope and a future that seemed impossible, but felt inevitable. When they finally broke apart, Sophie's phone rang. She saw the number and her blood froze. It's the hospital, Maya's school nurse. She answered with shaking hands, listened to words that made her face go white. Hung up slowly. Maya collapsed at school. They think it's her heart. They're taking her to Manhattan Presbyterian Emergency. Jack's jaw set. We go. Now. Dante. The drive to the hospital took 12 minutes. It felt like 12 hours. Sophie's hand was locked in Jack's the entire time, her mind spinning with terror. Maya, her baby girl, her heart. They arrived to chaos. Sophie's name already in the system, a private room already prepared, the best pediatric cardiologist in New York already waiting. Dr. Richard Chen met them in the hallway. Mrs. Thompson, Miss, Sophie corrected automatically, then, what's wrong with my daughter? Dr. Chen's expression was serious but calm. Maya has a congenital heart defect we missed in her previous screenings. It's called an atrial septal defect, a hole in the wall between the heart's upper chambers. She needs surgery, but it's very treatable. Surgery? Sophie breathed. How much? The surgery cost approximately $75,000, but with insurance, I don't have insurance. I mean, I have the hospital's basic plan, but it won't cover... The surgery is already paid for, Dr. Chen said gently. Mr. Castellano made sure of that. Sophie turned to Jack, who stood beside her like a wall of strength. Jack, you can't... I already did. His voice was firm. Maya gets the best care, whatever it costs. $75,000 is nothing compared to what she means to you, and what you mean to me. Jack's hand squeezed hers. She's going to be fine, Sophie. I promise you. The surgery happened 2 days later. Sophie sat in the waiting room, Jack on one side, Dante on the other, surrounded by 6 security guards who'd become strange, protective shadows. 5 hours, the longest 5 hours of Sophie's life. Dr. Chen finally emerged, still in his scrubs, a smile on his tired face. The surgery was successful. Maya's going to be perfectly fine. She'll need recovery time and monitoring, but she should live a completely normal, healthy life. Sophie collapsed into Jack's arms, sobbing with relief. In the recovery room, Maya lay small and fragile in the hospital bed, monitors beeping steadily. Sophie sat beside her, holding her daughter's hand, while Jack stood at the window, looking out at the city. Mama? Maya's voice was small, groggy. Baby, I'm here. You're okay. You're safe. Maya's eyes opened, focused on Sophie, then drifted to Jack. Who's that man? Sophie looked at Jack, who turned at Maya's voice. Their eyes met across the room, and Sophie saw her future in his gaze. That's Jack, Sophie said softly. He's someone very important to me. Someone who helped make sure you got better. Maya studied Jack with the blunt honesty of a child. Are you my mama's boyfriend? Jack crossed the room and knelt beside Maya's bed, his expression gentle. I'd like to be, if that's okay with you. Maya looked at Sophie, then back at Jack. Do you make my mama happy? I'm trying to, every day. Will you be nice to her? My other daddy wasn't nice. Jack's jaw tightened, but his voice remained soft. I will never ever be anything but good to your mother. You have my word. Maya considered this seriously. Then she smiled, a small, brave smile that made Sophie's heart ache. Okay, you can be her boyfriend. Jack's hand covered Sophie's on the bed, and in that moment, surrounded by beeping monitors and the smell of antiseptic, they became a family. 3 days after Maya's surgery, Sophie returned to work. She didn't have to. Jack had offered to support her financially, to let her quit and focus on Maya's recovery. But Sophie needed to do this, needed to walk back into that hospital on her own terms. The VIP wing was different now. Whispers followed her, stares tracked her movements. Everyone knew she was connected to Jack Castellano. Everyone knew what that meant. Dr. Harrison actively avoided her. Nurse Patricia had transferred to a different floor. The other staff members were either overly polite or completely silent in her presence. Sophie was pushing her cleaning cart toward the service elevator when she saw them. Dr. Harrison and Nurse Patricia in the administrative hallway, talking to someone Sophie recognized from news articles. Jonathan Rossetti, brother to the men who'd attacked Jack. Her blood ran cold. She pulled out her phone, texted Dante, Rossetti at hospital, admin hallway, Harrison and Patricia with him. The response was immediate. Don't move. Stay visible. Help coming. Sophie kept walking, her heart hammering, trying to look normal. But she heard footsteps behind her. Fast footsteps. Miss Thompson. Rossetti's voice was smooth, educated, dangerous. I'd like a word. Sophie turned slowly. Rossetti was in his 40s, expensive suit, cold eyes. Dr. Harrison and Patricia stood behind him, looking nervous. I don't have anything to say to you, Sophie said, grateful her voice was steady. Oh, I think you do. You see, Your boyfriend made things very difficult for my family. My brothers are in federal prison because of him. I can't touch Jack Castellano. He's too well protected. But you? Rossetti smiled. You're just a cleaning woman, vulnerable, accessible. I'm not afraid of you. You should be. He stepped closer. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to break things off with Castellano. You're going to tell him you can't handle his world. And you're going to disappear with your daughter. And if I don't, then I'll make sure your daughter doesn't make it to her 8th birthday. White-hot rage flooded through Sophie. Fear transformed into fury. She thought of Maya in that hospital bed, thought of Jack's promise to protect them, thought of every time she'd been underestimated, dismissed, treated as less than. No, she said clearly. Rossetti's eyebrows rose. No, I said no. You think you can threaten my daughter? You think you can scare me into running? Sophie's voice grew stronger, louder. I've been scared my whole life, scared of losing my job, scared of not being able to feed Maya, scared of being alone. But I'm not scared of you. You're making a mistake. The mistake is yours. Sophie's chin lifted. You came to my workplace, threatened my child, and you did it in front of witnesses. She gestured to Dr. Harrison and Patricia, who suddenly looked like they wanted to be anywhere else. You really think Jack won't find out about this? Rossetti's face darkened. You little... The elevator dinged. 6 men in black suits emerged, Dante at the front. They moved with military precision, surrounding Rossetti in seconds. Mr. Rossetti, Dante said calmly, you're going to want to come with us. You can't. We can. We have video evidence of you threatening Miss Thompson and her child, plus the testimony of Dr. Harrison and Nurse Patricia here, who I'm sure will be very cooperative. Sophie looked at the doctor and nurse. Both were pale, terrified. You set me up, Rossetti snarled at Sophie. No, Dante corrected. You walked into a building owned by Jack Castellano's business partners, threatened the woman he loves, and thought you'd get away with it. That's not a setup. That's stupidity. As Dante's team escorted Rossetti away, Dr. Harrison and Patricia following nervously, another figure emerged from the elevator. Jack. He crossed the hallway in long strides, his eyes scanning Sophie for any sign of harm. Are you okay? I'm fine, he didn't touch me. What did he say? Sophie looked into Jack's eyes and saw controlled fury there. Dangerous, deadly fury held in check only by his concern for her. He threatened Maya, said he'd make sure she didn't make it to her 8th birthday. Jack's jaw clenched so hard, Sophie thought she heard his teeth crack. Where are they taking him? Warehouse in Queens, Dante answered, reappearing. We'll hold him there until you decide what to do with him. Sophie grabbed Jack's arm. What are you going to do? Jack looked down at her, his expression softening slightly. What I should have done 3 weeks ago, I'm going to end this. The Rossetti family has been a problem for years. They came after me. They threatened you and Maya. That can't stand. Jack, this is who I am, Sophie. This is what I do. I protect what's mine. And you and Maya? His hand cupped her face. You're mine now, which means no one threatens you and lives. Sophie should be horrified, should be repulsed by the violence in his words, but all she felt was safe, protected, cherished. Be careful, she whispered. Jack's kiss was brief but intense. Always. Go home to Maya. Dante will drive you. I'll come by later tonight. As Sophie walked to the elevator with Dante, she heard Jack on the phone, his voice cold and commanding. Carlo, gather the family heads. We're having a meeting. It's time the Rossettis learned what happens when they threaten children. That night Sophie sat in her apartment, no longer the tiny studio, but a 3-bedroom in a secure building that Jack had moved them to, with Maya sleeping peacefully in her new room. The surgery had been successful. Maya was healing. They were safe. At midnight, Jack arrived. He looked tired, but satisfied. Sophie met him at the door, searching his face for answers. Is it over? She asked. It's over. The Rossettis are finished. Their assets are seized. Their leadership is scattered. Jonathan Rossetti is currently explaining to federal authorities how he threatened a child on hospital property. Jack's smile was grim. He'll be in prison for a very long time. You didn't kill him? No. I learned something from you, Sophie. Sometimes the best revenge is letting the system work. Sometimes justice is better than vengeance. He pulled her close. The old me would have had him killed, but the man I want to be, the man I'm becoming because of you, chooses a different path. Sophie's eyes filled with tears. You did that for me? I did it for us, for the future I want to have with you and Maya. Jack knelt down right there in her living room and pulled out a small box. Sophie Thompson, I know this is fast. I know it's crazy, but I also know that I love you more than I thought possible. I want to spend my life protecting you, cherishing you, giving you and Maya everything you deserve. He opened the box. Inside was a ring, a simple, beautiful diamond solitaire. Will you marry me? Sophie looked at this man who'd walked into her life and changed everything, who'd defended her when no one else would, who'd saved her daughter's life, who'd shown her that love could be fierce and gentle at the same time. Yes, she breathed. Yes, I'll marry you. Jack slipped the ring on her finger and kissed her, and Sophie felt her old life fall away completely. She was no longer just Sophie Thompson, the struggling single mother. She was Sophie Thompson, future wife to Jack Castellano. Protected, loved, home. Later, as they sat together on the couch, Jack's arms around her, Sophie thought about the journey that had brought them here. From that moment in the hospital hallway to this moment of perfect peace. What are you thinking? Jack asked softly. I'm thinking about that day in the hospital, when you defended me, when everything changed. I didn't defend you because I'm a good person. Sophie, I defended you because something in me recognized something in you, and I couldn't walk away. I'm glad you didn't. Me too. Jack kissed the top of her head. Me too. 2 years later, Sophie stood in the VIP wing of Manhattan Presbyterian Hospital, the same hallway where she'd first met Jack. But everything was different now. She wore a designer dress instead of a grey uniform. A wedding ring sparkled on her finger, and she was there for Maya's final follow-up appointment with Dr. Chen, who'd become a family friend. Mrs. Castellano, Dr. Harrison said as she passed him in the hallway. His tone was respectful now. How are you? I'm well, Dr. Harrison, thank you for asking. He nodded and hurried past, and Sophie smiled slightly. Some things had changed. Some things hadn't, but she was no longer the woman who'd been humiliated in this hallway. She'd found her power, her voice, her place. Jack waited in the executive suite, the same one he'd recovered in 2 years ago. Maya was with him, chattering away about her art class, showing him her latest drawings. At 9 years old, she was thriving, healthy, happy, with a father who adored her. Jack had officially adopted Maya 6 months after the wedding. The papers were framed in Maya's room. Maya Castellano. A new name for a new life. Mama! Maya ran to Sophie as she entered. Dr. Chen said my heart is perfect, no more appointments. Sophie hugged her daughter tight, tears in her eyes. That's wonderful, baby. Jack crossed to them, wrapped his arms around both Sophie and Maya, and kissed Sophie's temple. Celebration dinner tonight, wherever you want to go. Can we go to that Italian place you took us to last month? Maya asked. The one where everyone speaks Italian? Of course, Principessa, Jack said, using his nickname for Maya. As they left the hospital together, Jack's hand in Sophie's, Maya between them, Sophie thought about how far they'd come. From a chance encounter to a family, from humiliation to dignity, from fear to love. In the parking garage, Dante waited by the black SUV, a slight smile on his usually stoic face. Ready to head home, boss? Home, Jack agreed, but his eyes were on Sophie and Maya. Yes, let's go home. And as Sophie settled into the car, Maya on one side chattering about her art, Jack on the other side holding her hand, she realized that home wasn't a place anymore. It was this family, this love, this life they'd built from the ashes of what they'd been. She'd been a woman who cleaned floors. Now she was a woman who'd helped a dangerous man find redemption, who'd stood up to threats and won, who'd fought for her daughter and found love in the process. The hospital staff had mocked the Black Maid, but the Mafia boss had arrived and everything had changed. and Sophie Thompson Castellano had never been more grateful for that moment of humiliation that had led to a lifetime of love. This story has reached its end. If it touched your heart in any way, leave your like and share it with someone who also enjoys emotional stories. New stories are coming soon. Until next time.